Malik Draven worked alone in the lowest level of Arden Prime, where steel beams groaned under the weight of the city above. Sparks flew from his tools as he repaired the engines of an old hovercraft, the smell of burnt metal and oil filling the air. Most people in the colony had never seen him, and that was exactly how he liked it. Shadows were safer than attention. Shadows kept him alive. The colony thrummed with life above, towers glowing with neon and skyways crowded with vehicles. It was a world that moved too fast for ordinary humans to matter. Machines were important, but people like Malik, who understood the language of gears and circuits, could change the odds. He had learned long ago that intelligence could be sharper than any weapon, that quiet courage could outlast even the strongest warriors. Malik paused for a moment, wiping sweat from his brow. He was cleaning a corroded fuel injector when a sudden distant sound made him freeze, a low hum of engines different from anything he had worked on. His fingers tightened on the wrench. The hum grew louder, a pulse against the walls, and then he recognized it. He had hoped he would never see it again. A figure moved among the glowing towers above, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing armor that reflected the city lights. Malik's heart skipped. DracoWar veterans were legends, almost myths. Their names carried fear and respect. This one carried a purpose. Malik knew it instantly. He had tried to bury his past, hide his mistakes, but the past had sharp claws. The veteran's boots struck the steel walkways with authority. Every movement seemed deliberate, dangerous. Malik ducked behind a stack of old engines, his mind racing. He remembered the sword he had hidden years ago, tucked beneath his workbench in a reinforced locker. He had refused it once, too young, too scared, but he had never destroyed it. Now, seeing the veteran, Malik realized that the sword had chosen him long ago, whether he wanted it or not. The rules of the world were clear. DracoWar veterans could fight with strength that bordered on superhuman. They had trained in wars that had scorched moons and shattered starships. A human like Malik could never match that in direct combat. But humans had another weapon: imagination, invention, and the courage to act when everything seemed hopeless. Malik's mind raced through options. The elevators were too exposed, the alleyways too open. Above, the veteran's gaze swept the streets with the precision of a predator. Malik realized he had only one advantage: the shadows and the machines he understood better than anyone else. He moved quickly, taking apart a broken hover car. Within minutes, he had rigged a simple decoy, lights and sensors wired to a remote trigger. If the veteran approached, the machine would give the impression of movement in a different direction. Malik's heart pounded as he tested the device. It worked. The shadow gave him a moment of control. But moments were fragile. Another sound reached him: metal clanging, footsteps too heavy for ordinary men. Malik froze again. The veteran had changed direction. He was coming closer, now following a trail only a human with courage and attention to detail could leave. Malik realized that hiding alone would not be enough. He had to think 2 steps ahead, plan, and use his mind as a shield. He glanced at the locker under his workbench, at the sword that had once been a symbol of fear and responsibility. His hand twitched, almost reaching for it, but he forced it back. Not yet. He wasn't ready. He had to survive first. But the awareness that the veteran was hunting him, that he could appear at any moment, sent a chill down his spine. Malik moved into a tight corridor, carrying a stack of old conduits. He set up a crude trap, a metal beam connected to a loose panel held in place with a fragile wire. If the veteran stepped on it, the noise and small collapse would buy him time. It was not much, but time was precious. He took a deep breath, feeling both fear and determination. Humans could fight impossible odds, not by brute force but by cleverness, by refusing to give up when giants walked the earth. A shadow fell across the corridor, long and heavy. Malik froze, heart thundering. The veteran was closer than he had thought. He could feel the weight of experience, the certainty of a warrior who had survived impossible battles. Malik's fingers brushed the wrench in his pocket. He knew he could not fight him, but he could outsmart him. That had to be enough. The corridor held its breath. Sparks from a flickering light reflected off the steel walls. Malik's mind ran through possibilities: traps, decoys, misdirection. His pulse matched the hum of the city above. Then from the shadows, a figure stepped forward, armor catching every neon light. Malik's mouth went dry. Kalen Vorik had found him. And in that moment, Malik realized hiding had come to an end. Malik's chest burned as he backed deeper into the corridor, eyes never leaving the glinting armor of Kalen Vorik. The veteran moved like a shadow and a storm all at once. Silent steps, measured, yet carrying the promise of deadly precision. Malik's mind spun, racing through every machine, every wire, every device he had ever touched. This was not just survival now, it was a test of human cunning against someone bred for war. He ducked behind a stack of rusted engine frames, heart hammering. Every breath felt like it could give him away. Above, the colony's neon hum buzzed like a distant heartbeat, mocking him with its calm. Malik knew he had to act fast. Kalen had already read the corridor like a map, every hiding spot already considered. One misstep, and the shadow mechanic would become nothing more than another legend whispered about in Arden Prime. Malik's fingers moved over the tools strapped to his belt. He had rigged a network of decoys, motion sensors, lights, small servos that could mimic movement. He triggered the first one. Sparks flickered as the light danced down the hallway. Kalen paused, narrowed his eyes, then advanced slowly, his armored boots barely making a sound. Malik exhaled, relief and fear tangled inside him. The decoy had worked for now. But the veteran was patient. Kalen adjusted his path, ignoring the false movements, following the trail only Malik had left. The veteran's eyes scanned every shadow, every corner. Malik's pulse quickened. He could not fight him in a straight confrontation. He had to rely on machines, traps, and his own ability to anticipate the veteran's moves. Human intelligence, raw, relentless, and improvisational, was his only weapon. He sprinted to a nearby repair bay, grabbing a corroded hovercar and yanking wires from its engine. Within minutes, he had built a crude electromagnetic pulse device. It was unstable, unpredictable, but if he timed it right, it could disable Kalen's sensors long enough for Malik to escape. He tested the device on a scrap drone. Sparks flew, circuits fried, and Malik grinned despite the tension. It worked. Now he just had to hope it worked on something far more dangerous than a drone. A sudden metallic clang made him freeze. Kalen was close, too close. Malik ducked behind a steel column, clutching the pulse device like a lifeline. The veteran's voice broke the tension. "Malik Draven," he said calmly as if reading the mechanic's thoughts. "You cannot hide from what you are meant to be." Fear twisted Malik's stomach. How did he know his name? His mind raced. The sword. Kalen was here for the sword. Years ago, Malik had refused it out of fear of responsibility, of the power he could not yet understand. But Kalen's presence made it impossible to deny. The sword had chosen him once, and now it was calling again. Malik moved silently, weaving through debris and darkened hallways. He triggered the second decoy, a network of hanging metal panels that swung like pendulums. Kalen advanced through it, slow and careful, testing for traps. Malik's breath came in short, controlled bursts. The veteran was smart, too smart for a direct confrontation. Every trap had to be perfect, every distraction timed precisely. He ducked into a narrow maintenance shaft and rigged a third device, a small sensor that could emit false heat signatures. It blinked red, simulating a human presence elsewhere. Malik felt the tiniest spark of hope. Humans could think faster than machines, outmaneuver warriors trained to anticipate them. If he could combine his machines with his mind, he had a chance. The veteran paused at the intersection of the corridors. Malik heard the faintest clink of armor, the almost imperceptible hum of the sword in Kalen's hand. Malik's stomach twisted. This was not just a hunt. It was a test of will, of ingenuity, of courage. A human could survive in impossible situations if they refused to be defeated. That was the lesson his father had taught him when the colony was first built. Brains could outweigh brawn, courage could overcome fear, and even one human could change the outcome of events that seemed predetermined. Kalen shifted slightly, scanning the hallway with sensors that could detect even the faintest movement. Malik knew that if he miscalculated, if he hesitated for even a second, the veteran would find him. Malik's hands shook as he gripped a small control box. He took a deep breath. The pulse device was unstable, and its effects on Kalen's armor were untested. But it was all he had. He triggered it. The hum of the device surged through the corridor, sparks dancing along wires, metal groaning under the electromagnetic pulse. Kalen's sensors flickered, the glow of his visor momentarily dimmed. Malik darted from the maintenance shaft, weaving through shadows, moving faster than he ever had. The veteran reacted instantly, adjusting his stance, following the movement, but the pulse had given Malik a precious advantage. Malik felt adrenaline coursing through him. Fear was there, but determination burned brighter. Humans could face impossible odds and survive. Humans could fight giants without weapons, with nothing but brains, courage, and cleverness. The corridors twisted, the lights flickered, and Malik knew he had only bought himself moments, not safety. Kalen was still in the hunt, relentless, unstoppable, and closer than ever. Malik paused behind a stack of crates, heart hammering. His mind raced through possibilities. The pulse had slowed Kalen, but it would not last. He needed more. He needed a plan that could outthink a warrior who had survived dragon wars, a man whose every instinct screamed perfection in combat. Then Malik remembered the locker. The sword. The symbol of what he had once refused. He could hide no longer. But he was not yet ready to claim it. First, he had to survive long enough to prove that humans could outsmart even legends. From the shadows, Malik watched Kalen step into the corridor, armor gleaming, eyes scanning every corner. Malik swallowed hard, gripping his devices. The chase was far from over, and every heartbeat could be the difference between life and death. The shadow mechanic realized with sharp clarity that his fight had only just begun, and that survival required not just hiding but daring to act. And then at the far end of the corridor, a faint whirring sound echoed, a new, unknown threat approaching. Malik's pulse quickened. Something else had joined the hunt. Malik's heart thudded in his chest as the faint whirring grew louder. The echo bounced off the steel walls, sharp and threatening. He had survived Kalen's pursuit so far, using shadows, decoys, and quick thinking, but this new sound was unfamiliar. Something else was coming, something he couldn't yet see. His pulse quickened, but fear sharpened his mind. Humans survived not by hiding from threats, but by thinking faster than them. He pressed himself against a wall, listening. The whirring shifted, a mechanical rhythm unlike anything in the colony before. Drones. Not one but a swarm, small, fast, and armed with energy disruptors. They could immobilize a human in seconds, fry circuits, or detect heat signatures no hiding spot could conceal. Malik's chest tightened. Survival would demand everything he had learned and more. Kalen's armor clinked as he advanced, moving with a predator's patience, his eyes scanning every shadow. "Malik," he said calmly, voice echoing down the corridor. "The sword has chosen you. You cannot hide forever. You have to decide, will you run or will you fight?" Malik swallowed hard. Fight. That was the only option left. Hiding had kept him alive so far, but humans didn't survive impossible odds by hiding. They survived by acting, by creating, by turning fear into action. He glanced at his pulse device, at the stack of old wires and circuits he had dragged through the corridors, at the sword locked away beneath his bench. He wasn't ready for the sword yet, but he had tools, brains, and determination. That would have to be enough. The drones appeared first in his peripheral vision, skimming the walls like metallic wasps. Small, fast, dangerous. Malik's hands moved quickly, rearranging old servos, rewiring scrap engines. He connected them in a crude network, linking them to the overhead lighting and conduit lines. If he could send a pulse through the lights at the right moment, he might disable the drones long enough to escape, or even turn the attack back against them. Kalen stopped in the center of the corridor, arms crossed. He watched Malik work, expression unreadable. "You think machines can save you?" he asked. There was no mockery, only curiosity. Kalen understood that humans, when pushed to their limits, could be unpredictable. Dangerous. Intelligent. That was why he had come for the sword. It chose not only power but the courage to rise. Malik didn't answer. He activated the array. Sparks shot from the connections as electrical energy surged along old conduit lines. The lights flickered violently, casting stuttering shadows across the corridor. The drones, drawn by the energy signature, swarmed into the corridor. Malik held his breath. A pulse shot through the system. Lights blazed, arcs of energy danced along wires, and the drones wavered midair. Their sensors overloaded. Metallic shrieks echoed as circuits burned, and one by one, the swarm crashed against walls and floors. Malik exhaled, heart pounding, but he knew this was only a temporary victory. Kalen was still moving, still alert, still deadly. Kalen's voice broke the tension. "Clever," he said. "But intelligence alone isn't enough." He advanced, careful, deliberate, a warrior who had survived dragon wars, who had faced enemies with fire in their eyes and steel in their claws. Every step he took reminded Malik that humans were outmatched physically, but outmatched only if they surrendered their ingenuity. Malik ducked behind a crate, eyes flicking to the far end of the corridor. He needed a plan, something more than pulses and decoys. He remembered the locker, the sword he had refused years ago. It hummed faintly in his memory, a reminder of responsibility and choice. He wasn't ready to claim it yet. Not now. First, he had to survive long enough to prove that a human mind could outthink the deadliest warrior in the colony. Kalen paused, studying the shadows. Malik realized that the veteran's patience was a weapon itself. He would not rush. He would wait for Malik to make a mistake. Malik's hands itched for action. He had to turn this into an advantage. He scoured the corridor, scanning old pipes, conduits, and panels. Every surface could become a trap. Every wire could be a lifeline. Then he saw it, a broken maintenance drone half dismantled, its energy core exposed. A risky idea flashed in his mind. If he could jury-rig the drone to act as a mobile EMP, he could disable Kalen's suit sensors temporarily, giving him an opening. It would be dangerous. One miscalculation and the energy might fry him too. But humans survived by daring the impossible, by turning risk into strategy. Malik moved fast, connecting wires, testing circuits. Sparks flew, smoke curled in the air. The drone powered up, its small core humming with energy. Kalen shifted, noticing the movement. Malik's heart pounded. Every second counted. He triggered the drone, sending it toward Kalen. The pulse hit the veteran's sensors, blurring his vision, forcing him to step back. Malik seized the moment. He darted down a side corridor, weaving through shadows, heart hammering. As he ran, Malik realized the challenge ahead was far greater than he had imagined. Kalen would recover quickly. The drones, or something else, might return. The sword waited in its locker, a reminder of the choice he had avoided for too long. Fear was still there, sharp and icy, but determination burned brighter. Humans survived impossible odds not because they were strongest, but because they refused to surrender. Malik's mind raced, plotting, calculating, preparing. At the end of the corridor, sparks from a severed conduit lit the walls. Malik paused, chest heaving. Ahead, the whirring of drones had stopped. But something else moved in the darkness, something faster, something unseen. His pulse quickened. This was far from over. Malik knew one thing for certain: hiding had ended. The next move would decide everything, and he would have to rely on courage, intelligence, and every scrap of ingenuity he possessed. From the shadows, the faint glint of armor reflected the stuttering light. Kalen Vorik had recovered and he was coming. Malik's lungs burned as he ducked behind a cluster of half-collapsed conduits. The corridor ahead was a maze of twisted metal, sparking wires and shadows, but Kalen Vorik advanced steadily, armor gleaming under the flickering lights. The pulse had slowed the veteran only for a moment, and Malik knew he couldn't rely on luck again. If he wanted to survive, he had to combine his ingenuity with action, not just evasions. Humans could do that. They could see patterns, anticipate threats, and turn the impossible into advantage. The corridor shuddered as another hum of drones echoed from deeper in the colony. Malik's pulse quickened. The swarm had not retreated. They were regrouping, likely drawn by the energy of the last EMP pulse. He had seconds to act. Every wire, every piece of scrap, every machine could be a weapon, but only if used with precision. Malik glanced at the far wall. Old conduit pipes ran along its length, thick enough to carry energy pulses. A plan sparked in his mind. He could connect the leftover power cells from the drones to the conduits, channeling energy down the line to create a controlled electromagnetic field. It could disable both the remaining drones and Kalen's sensor systems for just enough time. Risky, yes, but humans survived by taking calculated risks, by acting when fear threatened to paralyze them. He moved fast, stripping wires from broken drones and old engines, connecting power cells to the conduit network. Sparks flew, heat radiating from the makeshift assembly. Malik's hands shook, but his mind was razor-sharp. Every connection had to be precise. One mistake and the energy could overload, fry the conduits, or worse, strike him instead. He remembered every lesson from years of repairing engines in the shadows, every detail of energy flow and circuitry. Humans could turn knowledge into survival. Kalen's footsteps drew closer. Malik's chest hammered. The veteran paused, scanning the corridor with eyes that missed nothing. "I admire your persistence," Kalen said calmly, "but persistence alone will not win." His armor glinted as he adjusted his stance, ready for attack. Malik knew Kalen's reflexes were faster than any human's, his instincts honed by wars that had burned planets. But instinct could be anticipated. Strategy, intelligence, and courage could create openings where brute strength could not. Malik triggered the field. A surge of energy rippled down the conduit pipes. Sparks arced into the air, shadows dancing wildly. The drones convulsed in midair as circuits overloaded. Kalen's visor flickered. His sensors were disrupted. Malik seized the moment. He sprinted forward, weaving between sparks and debris, a human in a world that had underestimated his capacity to act under pressure. He dove into a narrow alcove, heart pounding. From the shadows, he glimpsed Kalen's struggle to recalibrate, his movements slowed but still deliberate. Malik realized the veteran was formidable, nearly unstoppable, but the pulse had created a narrow window. He had to exploit it fully. Humans could turn moments into victories through quick thinking and relentless courage. Malik scanned the corridor. Above, a series of overhead cables hung loose, thick enough to conduct energy. A desperate plan formed. He could use the remaining drone's energy cores as improvised projectiles, swinging them along the cables to create a cascading effect. If timed correctly, it could strike both Kalen and the drones, buying him enough time to reach the locker where the sword awaited. He grabbed the cores, rigged them to the cables with frayed wires and let them swing. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and one by one drones were struck and disabled. Kalen dodged instinctively, but the chaos forced him to step back, giving Malik the narrow opening he needed. His pulse surged with adrenaline. Humans survived because they refused to surrender, because fear could be converted into action, because ingenuity could challenge even the most seasoned warriors. Malik bolted toward the locker, weaving through sparks and falling debris. Kalen recovered quickly, advancing with deliberate precision, but Malik was faster in the chaos, using the environment like a weapon. Every scrap of metal, every wire, every shadow was under his control. The corridor became a gauntlet he had engineered, and humans could master gauntlets if they combined courage with intelligence. He reached the locker and slammed it open. The sword hummed faintly as if recognizing the moment had come. Malik's hands closed around the hilt. Power surged, not through brute force, but as a connection between his mind, courage, and the weapon. Kalen reached out, but Malik was ready. Humans could rise in impossible moments, and this was one. With a deep breath, Malik turned. He was not hiding anymore. He moved with calculated precision, using the sword's energy to amplify his movements, to interface with Kalen's armor. Together, the veteran and the mechanic formed a synchronized force. Malik directing strategy, traps, and energy flow, Kalen striking with skill and strength. The remaining drones fell before their combined coordination. The corridor shook from the final surge of energy as Malik directed the last pulse. Sparks danced around them. Kalen stopped, breathing heavily, admiration in his eyes. "You have proved yourself," he said. "Human courage and intelligence can overcome anything." Malik let the sword hum in his hands, feeling the weight of responsibility, of choice, of action. Fear had driven him once, now determination guided him. Humans could rise above legends, outsmart warriors, and survive the impossible. This was not just victory, it was proof that human ingenuity and courage could shine where power alone was not enough. Outside the corridor, the colony hummed with life, oblivious to the battle just fought. Malik's heart slowed, but adrenaline still coursed through his veins. The drones were destroyed, the veteran stood by his side, and the sword, once a symbol of fear, was now a testament to human resolve. Malik had acted when it mattered most. He had survived, he had triumphed, and he had claimed his place in a world that had always doubted him. And yet, as he caught his breath, Malik knew the challenges were not over. The colony held dangers he had yet to face, enemies who would not yield, and choices that would test courage in ways even Kalen could not predict. But for now, in this moment, a human had stood against impossible odds, and emerged victorious. Malik Draven stood in the middle of the corridor, the hum of the sword vibrating softly in his hands. The sparks from the ruined drones still lit the walls with fleeting shadows, but a quiet had fallen over Arden Prime. Kalen Vorik rested against a steel column, breathing heavily, armor scratched and scorched, yet unbroken. For the first time in years, Malik felt the weight of his fear lift, replaced by something heavier but stronger, responsibility. The corridors were silent now, but silence carried its own tension. Malik looked around at the twisted conduits, the flickering lights, the broken machines that had been both shield and weapon. He had survived against impossible odds, not by hiding, not by running, but by using his mind, his courage, and his determination to outthink a warrior bred for battle. Humans could endure, he realized. Humans could overcome. Humans could rise. Kalen's voice broke the quiet. "You did what no one else could. Machines, traps, strategy, they were your tools. But courage was yours alone." He pushed off the column and stepped closer, the sword humming faintly between them. "You've earned the right to wield it. The choice is yours." Malik's fingers tightened around the hilt. For years, he had avoided this moment, afraid of the responsibility and power the sword represented. It had been more than metal. It had been destiny, expectation, and fear all intertwined. Now, after surviving drones, traps, and a veteran who had seen battles that scarred worlds, Malik realized he was ready. Humans survived not by waiting for fate to pass, but by acting when fear was loudest, when every instinct screamed to run. He lifted the sword. The energy thrummed through him, not as a threat, but as a connection. a recognition of his courage, intelligence, and determination. Kalen studied him, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked. Malik nodded. "It means humans are stronger than anyone believes. It means courage matters. It means we survive even when the odds are impossible." Outside, the neon glow of Arden Prime's towers reflected in the broken panels of the corridor. Life went on, unaware of the battle that had just unfolded. Hovercars hummed in the sky, distant voices carried along the streets, but for Malik, nothing would ever be the same. He had hidden in shadows for years, believing anonymity was safety. Now he understood. Humans were meant to act, meant to face challenges, and meant to rise in ways that no legend could predict. Kalen clapped a hand on Malik's shoulder. "You could have run forever. But you didn't. You chose action, thought, and courage over fear. That is why you survived. That is why humans endure." Malik felt a flush of pride but also a quiet humility. It was not glory he had earned, it was respect, understanding, and the proof that human ingenuity and bravery could challenge the strongest warriors, even the ones forged in dragon wars. Malik looked at the corridor, at the wreckage of machines, and at the broken drones. Every scrap had been part of his survival, part of the human strategy that had turned the tide. Humans could endure not because they were invincible, but because they could think, adapt, and fight smarter than any opponent expected. Even legends like Kalen could be surprised by what a human mind could achieve. A faint alarm rang in the distance. Malik's eyes narrowed. There were more threats out there, more challenges waiting in the city and in the colony beyond. But he no longer felt fear in the same way. Fear was a tool, a signal to act, to plan, to survive. Humans had to act when others froze. Humans had to rise when legends descended. Malik had done both. Kalen nodded toward the exit. "The world is changing, Malik. There will be more battles, more impossible odds. But now, you are ready. And humanity has another reason to survive." Malik's gaze followed the veteran as he stepped back, disappearing into the shadows he had once dominated. Alone now, Malik sheathed the sword. It was not just a weapon, it was a symbol, a promise, a reminder that courage, intelligence, and determination could overcome any obstacle. He walked toward the exit, every step feeling lighter, freer. The city hummed around him, alive, indifferent, yet full of possibility. Humans could rise and Malik would prove it, not in legend but in every choice, every act of courage, every moment he refused to surrender to fear. He paused for a moment at the top of the corridor, looking out over the glowing towers, and felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Not just for himself, but for all humans who hid in shadows, who feared responsibility, who doubted their strength. Humans could endure, humans could rise, and humans could change the outcome of events that seemed impossible. Malik stepped into the city, leaving the corridor behind, but carrying its lessons with him. Every flickering light, every shadow, every machine had taught him something vital. Courage was born in the moments when fear screamed the loudest. Intelligence mattered, yes, but only when paired with action. Humans, even ordinary humans, could face impossible odds and survive. Humans could shine brighter than legends. The sword hummed faintly at his side, a soft reminder of choice and responsibility. Malik smiled quietly. For the first time he did not hide. The city stretched before him, full of challenge, full of opportunity, full of impossible odds. And Malik Draven, the human mechanic who had once hid in shadows, would rise to meet them all. Somewhere in the distance, a faint hum of engines signaled movement. Another test, another challenge. Malik tightened his grip on the sword. Humans had survived the impossible before. They would survive it again. And this time they would rise in full light.